as we talk about the markets, the way that they are shaping up, is there a sign that today could be maybe a bit of stability compared to yesterday, or is it really too early for a lot of traders and investors to go long this market?
Oh, I think it's too early. I mean, there's no doubt we could get a little bit of a bounce. We could even have a couple of days of stabilization, but it really feels to me like we are due for a much more serious sell-off. The overall situation has really changed a lot because the macro picture now is a tight monetary policy with higher inflation. The Fed is kind of trapped now in a problem, not necessarily of its own making, but in a very serious problem. Because if you look at inflation, inflation is starting to go up. Tariffs are going to have an impact on inflation. Higher oil prices are going to have an impact on inflation. So the Fed really simply can't just stop hiking rates. That creates, I think, a very, very negative environment for stocks, and therefore causes for an opportunity for even further sell-off. I mean, I think in some ways this is probably the least surprising sell-off ever because we were at record low cash positions going into this, and it seems almost natural that we were due for some very serious correction now.
All right. George Goncalves over at Nomura earlier in the show said that cash and maybe some of these fixed income money market instruments have now become relatively attractive to where they have been. Is there a case to be made right now that perhaps that cash or the raising of those money market type instruments is an attractive alternative for investors?
It is. And I would also say that probably until we get to some sort of extreme levels of cash, maybe 5–10% of cash as investors begin to panic, it's not going to be, it's only at that point that it's probably going to be a time to start looking for equities as a trade back into them. Up to now, we've really been so overbought for so long that the correction just seems to me is going to be much further than it is at this point. At very minimum, we're going to be looking at $25,000, just the first level to break. But I think it's going to go much further, especially if you have all these points of tension all across the world. Remember, we have populist government in Italy that's still negotiating with Europe. We still don't have Brexit resolved. A lot of the macro issues globally just simply adding salt to the wound at this point.